Brandon Willie Martin was a gifted baseball player. He had speed, power, strength, everything you could want out of a young shortstop. Something about the pop of his bat and the graceful way he moved on the field awed his teammates at his Corona, California high school, Santiago High. His friends wanted to spend time around him, hoping his greatness would rub off on them, but that kind of talent doesn't come around too often. It takes dedication to the game and specific physical attributes that not everyone possesses to really make a name for yourself. And that's precisely what Brandon did. In June 2011, the MLB draft was underway. The Tampa Bay Rays would sign Brandon to an $860,000 contract with the 38th overall pick. All his friends and family were excited and swore he would be the next big star like his idol, Derek Jeter. With his hefty paycheck, Brandon promised friends he'd take care of them and bought a black Nissan Titan for his father. But professional baseball proved to be more of a challenge than he thought during his first season with the Single-A Rays team. In July 2011, Brandon sent a friend a text saying, "The pitching out here is ridiculous." He and some teammates rented a mansion in Yorba Linda, California for $6,000 a month in late 2011. It was a 6,700 square foot marble-filled home approximately 37 miles southeast of downtown Los Angeles. Between November 2011 and February 2012, the police responded to 19 calls at the residence. Police records mention repeated loud parties, a brawl with baseball bats where blood was everywhere, subjects urinating on nearby lawns, someone brandishing a black airsoft rifle, and lots of underage drinking. Brandon even threw 2012 $1 bills off a balcony during his New Year's party that year. Matt Budgell, a former minor league pitcher for the New York Mets who lived with Brandon at the time, said, quote, "Things got a bit out of hand in that house. We were doing cocaine and drinking all the time. We tried coke for the first time together. Then it was more coke for him. I think it might have been a necessity thing. You keep doing it long enough and coke is not enough. You want to get higher." End quote. A longtime friend of Brandon's noticed the drug affected him differently than others who used it. Quote, "If he did coke, he looked like a crazy animal. Eyes wide, like a Tasmanian devil." End quote. Baseball America named Brandon the best defensive infielder in the Rays organization. The following offseason, Brandon and his entourage rented a smaller home in Corona where the parties would continue. He spent more time alone in his room playing video games and seemed on edge. He responded to questions with one-word answers, he mumbled to himself, he laughed for no reason, and his eyes looked vacant. This personality became known to his friends as George. George was Brandon's aggressive, confrontational side that started to take over. Everyone who wanted to be around Brandon at the Yorba Linda mansion started pulling away from him. In late 2013, when Brandon and a couple of friends were smoking weed, someone mentioned his hitting problems from the previous season. Brandon grabbed the bat from the trunk of a car and wanted to fight. Around the same time, Brandon was sitting in a car with a friend and told the friend to stop laughing at him. His friend wasn't laughing and had no idea what he was talking about. Brandon said, quote, "I can hear your thoughts," end quote. He was being serious. Brandon failed a drug test for marijuana with the Rays and started using heroin in addition to his heavy alcohol and cocaine consumption. He flew to Florida 2 months later for the Rays' annual winter development camp. Brandon and his coach got into a heated argument and the Rays sent him home. The Rays said he could return to the team if he apologized and sought help. He didn't seem to grasp that his career was in jeopardy. Brandon decided not to apologize or seek help and moved back home with his parents in January 2014. In February of that year, Brandon put his mother Melody in a headlock during an argument. No one called the police. Brandon made his parents' lives hell. For example, on September 15, 2014, he punched his father Michael in the face and then asked for money. Michael gave him $20, then Brandon sat down to eat at their table as if nothing had happened. Even though police were called for this incident, Michael refused medical intervention for his swollen cheek and didn't want to press charges against Brandon. Michael and Melody did eventually apply for a restraining order, writing on the application they were in danger and wanted their son ordered to move out. However, a judge dismissed their case when they failed to appear in court. In March 2015, the Rays released Brandon from his baseball contract. At that point, he hadn't played in a game for more than a year and had stopped working out and going to batting cages. On September 15, 2015, Brandon threatened his mother with scissors during an argument over a therapy appointment he failed to keep. Cops were called by one of Brandon's uncles who was visiting the house that day. Brandon admitted to the scissor incident and choking his mother 2 days earlier. He said he was depressed and feared for his safety after she slapped him on the shoulder. He called it self-defense. The incident left his mother's neck swollen and bruised for several days. Brandon was arrested, taken to a psychiatric facility, and placed on a 72-hour mental health hold. While checking him in, the officer marked a box on the application stating Brandon was a danger to others. The officer described Brandon's behavior as bizarre and inappropriate. He was admitted at 8:55 p.m. on September 15th and discharged at 1:23 p.m. on September 17th, which was much earlier than the 72 hours he was supposed to be held. While at the facility, Dr. Debbie Ann Rosario, the attending psychiatrist, diagnosed Brandon with a mood disorder in addition to marijuana and alcohol abuse during a 75-minute meeting. She noted features of antisocial, narcissistic, and borderline personality disorders. She stated that Brandon no longer met the criteria for ongoing involuntary detention, which was why he was released early. He was given a bus pass home. This decision proved to be fatal. Melody Martin and another family member pleaded with hospital staff not to release Brandon. Melody had arranged for a security system to be installed at her home that day. The doctor later said she wasn't told the mother didn't want her son to return. 3 men were at the house on Winthrop Drive that afternoon. Michael Martin, his brother-in-law Ricky Andersen, and ADT security system installer Barry Swanson. Andersen was there to support wheelchair-bound Michael, who planned to give his son Brandon an ultimatum. Enroll in a Salvation Army rehabilitation program for 6 months or move out within the hour. Around 6 p.m., Brandon Martin came home. Ricky was on the phone with his son Mike, who could hear Brandon arguing with his father in the background. He was refusing treatment and also refusing to move out. The line went dead. Mike Andersen called back, but he couldn't get through to his father. He immediately drove to the house and found the front door unlocked. He called 911 at 6:35 p.m. to report what he saw. 64-year-old Michael Martin and 62-year-old Barry Swanson were pronounced dead at the scene. 58-year-old Ricky Andersen died in a hospital 2 days later. They had all been struck in the head with a baseball bat. The bloodied bat was found in a hallway near the garage with the name Brandon Martin engraved in it. The men's cell phones and wallets were missing along with Swanson's white Ford F-150 Raptor. The following morning, an officer in an unmarked Corona police car spotted the Raptor and a chase ensued. Other officers joined the chase and tried to ram the back of the truck. Brandon was speeding through side streets and intersections until the officers were finally able to disable the truck. In bare feet, Brandon ran away and hopped a fence. He sprinted through backyards and broke into a home as a woman was showering. He jumped out her second-story bedroom window where officers advanced with guns drawn. Brandon didn't respond to commands to show his right hand, so an officer released a canine unit. The dog bit Brandon's left leg, so he repeatedly punched it. He then picked up the 79-pound animal and body slammed him onto the concrete patio. The dog yelped but continued to bite Brandon's inner thigh and pierced his scrotum. Fearing Brandon had a weapon concealed in his waistband, one officer kicked him twice, then jabbed his rifle muzzle into his temple. At least 4 other officers joined in subduing Brandon with baton blows, punches, and kicks. An officer found the truck key and 33 cents in Brandon's pockets. He was arrested and taken into custody. Brandon gave Corona police 2 versions of what happened when questioned about the killings. In both stories, he denied any involvement. Brandon said he didn't call family members or police after discovering the bodies. Instead, he went through the men's pockets, grabbed their cell phones, then drove the Raptor to Carl's Jr. to eat. Cops and prosecutors didn't believe his version of events, and he was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, among other charges, and faced the death penalty. Brandon pleaded not guilty to all counts. After a mental health assessment, a judge found him mentally competent to stand trial. Defense lawyer Edward Welburn maintained his client suffered from a mental illness. Melody Martin said she did not support putting her son to death because it would be like a dagger to her heart to lose another family member. Prosecutors said that the attack on his father was racially motivated. They said Brandon hated being half black and would often scream racial slurs at his father. He even used the skin lightener on himself to try and make himself appear whiter. In November 2020, a jury convicted 27-year-old Brandon Willie Martin of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count each of auto theft, evading arrest, obstructing a peace officer, and injuring a police canine. In January 2021, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I can promise you this, not many feel anything for you. You are dead to me and to the world. After today, you are just a number in a prison system until the day you die. 5 years ago, you ended your own life, but didn't have the balls to actually kill yourself. Instead, you killed my dad, who had everything to live for. You are no value to anyone. You are worthless to everyone, including yourself. You've earned a life behind bars. You'll never step a foot of freedom again. Prison is your hell for now until you can actually go to hell. If the death penalty had meant a painful death, like you sentenced my father, your own father, and your uncle, I'd probably want that. But how I see it, this man didn't deserve to be put to sleep like an animal that I care about. He deserves everything he has coming to him, and you'll have plenty of time to think about that as you rot in prison. I love you, Dad. I am so proud of the hero you were in life and death. You are my hero, and I will honor your legacy always. Brandon, go enjoy your cage and some top ramen. I'm going to enjoy a beer and a nice steak dinner with my family and friends and the freedom that I have earned with my life and the way I live it.
Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.